Hey guys, I'm Cecilia, and this is Come Relax With Me, a Speedpaint video where I put on some light music and draw something while talking, hopefully not rambling on too much about random things. Today I decided to draw my three main characters from my comic in much fancier clothes than they would usually wear. I got inspired to draw them like this because I saw this picture of this really cool suit I liked, and I thought it would fit Axel really well. So here we go, we jump right into the line art process. Yet again, I drew this on paper so I couldn't record me drawing the sketches at first, but for the next time I'll make sure to record the whole process. It was really fun trying to figure out what these three would wear for a fancy occasion. Personally, I'm not very fashionable, so these clothes may not be super imaginative, but I did my very best to design something for them that would fit well given their personalities, age, and preferences. May would most likely want a dress that she can move in comfortably, while still being nice, so I looked up references of dresses and made up one based on what I think she'd be comfortable wearing. She wouldn't really want revealing clothes, and really would be more concerned with what Milo is wearing, so I chose to draw her in a very simple long gown, with very tame colors, which you'll see later when I start coloring in the piece. And as far as Milo's clothes are concerned, well, he's 3, and his mom is dressing him, so he would wear whatever May puts on him. In this case, he probably had a suit jacket at some point, but he's a kid, so I'm sure that would be very uncomfortable for him. So I decided to draw him only with a shirt, suspenders, and pants, a little bow tie, 'cause bow ties are cool. Choosing clothes for Axel was obvious to say the least. The whole inspiration came from how I wanted to dress him. He's the character I draw the most and also the character I'm most attached to, so he's usually the first character I think about when I'm drawing things for lemon soda and coffee. His personality is just so awkward and fun that putting him in different situations is very amusing. For this suit, I'm not sure he'd really seek out to wear this, like I'd imagine May would choose this for him, since he dresses in quite plain clothes normally. But he's also kind of a pushover, so he'd wear almost anything to please her and to fit in with other people, given of course that it's a reasonable demand. Suits are very fun for me to draw. In my everyday life, I rarely ever get to see men or women dressed in a more fashionable manner, and it's just super fun whenever I get the chance to draw my own characters like this. Unfortunately, during the speed paint I ran into some problems. My keyboard was running out of batteries, so I couldn't record properly for a while. I wanted to continue regardless of that issue, but I'm simply not used to use my tablet shortcuts, so I ended up working way slower than I wanted to. So in the end I had to continue a day later when I got new batteries. So I'm sorry that it's kinda janky during the line art process. Because of these technical difficulties I experienced, I somehow managed to fill in areas on the line art layer I didn't want to fill in, so I had to fix that, which was a bit frustrating. It wasn't hard to fix, I simply had to select the filled in color and delete it, but it was quite annoying having to deal with such dumb errors like that. For Axel's suit's colors, I went with the colors of the suit I was inspired by, which was this darker blue. As for the inside of the suit, I am not very familiar with how a suit is sewn together, so I went and looked up references and decided to go with a lighter shade of blue to not attract too much attention there. All of the other colors of his clothes, the shirt, the bow tie, and the shoes, all just kind of fell into place. I chose to make the shirt white to contrast with how busy the suit was going to be. And for the bow tie and shoes, I found that having them be warm colors will complete the look nicely. For Milo, I felt that May would want to choose clothes for him on which stains are harder to see. So I went with brown pants for him. I did consider putting Milo in a colored shirt, but I decided against it because I didn't think it would be fitting somehow. I like to think that the only part of this outfit Milo chose for himself would be the bow tie. He did get attached to Axel fairly fast, and so I think he would look up to him and try to imitate whatever he is wearing. For May, she's just a really sweet person, so I found that a light pink dress suited her really well. It doesn't particularly go together with Axel's or Milo's clothes, so their color coordination is definitely off, but I still went ahead and used that color because I thought she looked cute. Her personality is generally more down-to-earth and patient, and wearing pants most of the time, so I found that this nice pink dress, as well as the flowers, brought out her feminine side well. At first I wasn't sure how I wanted to color all this, whether it was painting style or cell shading, so I was a bit hesitant in the beginning. I didn't know how far I wanted to bring this because I was a bit tired when I started drawing. But then I got carried away and in the end I went painting style all the way. This was supposed to be a simple drawing, but it ended up being more detailed than I originally intended it to be. I went with a very soft shading for May's dress to try and give it a smooth texture like silk kinda. So I didn't want to give a very overpowering shading that would make everything so dark and so much heavier looking. Her neck piece was meant to be like a transparent mesh, and I tried my best to convey it as best as I could, but I feel I didn't really succeed as much as I wanted it to. But oh well, at least I learned something for the next time I try and make something more transparent. The lighting and shading colors I chose for this piece are very tame and light, making it seem as if the characters are in a very bright studio environment. I like to use this kind of lighting when I either don't have a particular direction in mind for the drawing, or if the characters are in an indoors environment where the light is not coming from a natural source like the sun, moon, a fire, etc. The lights indoors are more often a cold white than outdoors and can be a bit less interesting to paint depending on the angle at which the light hits the object or person you're trying to paint. In this drawing, it may seem like the light is coming from right above the characters, especially for Milo, but that is more of a design issue for him. Because of his hair's shape, the easiest way to shade his hair is to do big strokes of a darker color under each lock of hair to make it more natural looking. His hair is very weird and cartoony, so I have to be especially careful at painting it to make it really look like it's in 3D. Speaking of lighting angles, usually the most interesting times of day for lighting are early morning when the sun is coming up and in the afternoon when the sun is setting, because the source of light comes at an angle on people and objects since the sun isn't right above them. This applies to photography as well as drawing. It's not to say that having a completely top-down lighting is inherently bad, but that it's more often boring to look at and makes the drawing or picture quite flat. Because these characters were designed with a more cartoony shaped hair, it can get very challenging to figure out on how to shade more naturally their hair. Excel is another character I struggle to shade in painting style as far as his hair is concerned, of course. When I designed him, I knew I wanted to cel shade the comic for simplicity and readability of the character, so I failed to realize that I am not 100% sure of the anatomy of his locks of hair in 3D, and it especially shows in this speed paint where I retry so many times to shade his hair. The most tedious part of this speed paint was definitely trying to figure out how to do Axel's suit's square patterns. I do have different kinds of square pattern brushes, but I didn't know at all how to apply them to make the squares flow naturally on the clothing pieces. I tried different things before deciding to put a regular square pattern, adjust it to the body shape, and rinse and repeat for each section of the suit and pants. It was a very annoying process to do, but I definitely didn't want to draw each square by hand because I wouldn't be able to keep the pattern even. I really wanted to make sure Axel's suit was on point because I got really attached to the original suit design I was inspired by. This suit is quite literally the reason I even began drawing this, so it had to be as perfect as possible. I may have put more effort than necessary into this detail, but I'm happy I did because it ended up looking great, I think. After I was done putting all the squares in, I changed the layer blending to overlay so that the pattern isn't as aggressive looking and sharp, making it look like it's part of the fabric of the suit. I still wasn't sure what kind of background I was going to put in for this piece, so I played around with different colors before settling for like this frosty night sky kind of backdrop, sort of just floating behind them. It may not particularly make much sense, but it makes a nice contrast between the characters that are dressed in fairly light clothes. Even Axel's blue suit is quite light compared to the backdrop, creating a nice harmony where the attention is put on the characters in the foreground. As I was finishing up, I noticed I forgot to paint in Axel's bow tie, so I had to retroactively go back and color it, but after that I was pretty much done with the piece. This here is the final result. These three dummies definitely didn't coordinate their clothes together, but they still seem like a happy bunch. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you to all of my patrons. And I'll see you next time!